Well, I just woke up and it's Saturday, about 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna do a garden tour. So I'm gonna start with the chickens, which their yard looks pretty junky, but these are our guys. We have a lot of roosters, but they just demanded breakfast, so they are happy. If you ever hear them in the background, that's the Silkies. This is the chicken garden. There is one cabbage that clearly had some caterpillars that laid in it. So I've been fighting that. I ordered a black light and I'm waiting for that to show up, but it's not here, which is really annoying. Our peonies that come back every year, I should probably have deadheaded them, but no time. Some peas hidden in here. And then these are the two butternut squash plants that came out of seeds from a butternut squash that was on the counter. And then there's some smultron. So, okay. The front garden, mix of containers, raised beds, and the greenhouse. We harvested the potatoes out of this guy and replanted with some of the beets that were in another container, cauliflower and a red Russian kale that had gotten attacked by the birds and a slug, but it is rebounding, and that's kind of awesome. This is my shard bucket that I planted in 2017, and I just let it bolt every year. This is the first year we took it out of the greenhouse to make room for other stuff, so we'll see what happens. This might be a little hardier than it's been in the past. The shard in the greenhouse always is very gentle and soft, and kind of waxy in the leaves. They're not nearly as strong as the other ones. There's 3 tomatoes in small containers. What I think is a white cabbage, which has just been in there for a couple months, also has pest pressure. Broad bean and some Thai basil. Our strawberries are still giving us strawberries occasionally. Chickens are losing their mind. 2 Brussels sprouts in containers. Had to pull caterpillars off of these guys too. You can see a little bit of damage here. But and there's a spider in there hunting them, which is awesome. But yeah, some nasturtiums, some trap crops. There's another red Russian kale just dropped in here to try and keep the slugs off of the strawberries. More strawberries, planted some peas, and I think a cauliflower, but I don't know that that's gonna make it. Some peas tucked into the corner, just making it weird. One of my roosters being angry and defiant. The greenhouse, which is bananas. These are volunteer eggplants from last year. At the division launch party, they had a bunch of living, I guess, set decorations or whatever. They had rebuilt the beginning of the game, which was awesome. But there were all these plants there, and I was like, that's food. And there was this really mature eggplant there, and I asked if I could take one home, and they said yes. So I brought the eggplant home, kept it alive all summer. Last summer, ate all the fruits off of it, and then except for a couple that I left, and now we are starting to get a little flower bud there. So from a plant that I rescued from a video game launch party, we now have more food growing. So that's kind of amazing and very silly. And I don't know that work knows that I did that, but I did. And I posted about it on Instagram, so they should know. This is a bag of potatoes. I'm just waiting for the plants to fully die down. I had planted some tatsoi seeds on top, and they just did not take off. It's been too hot in here, which totally makes sense. But that also means I may have volunteer tatsoi in there if I let it, leave it alone for too long. Purple kale, broccoli, sprouts from before. I'm kind of just using them as a hopeful trap crop. It's not working, but it's fine. Cauliflower, some beans, more plum tomatoes. This is a pepper plant that was started from seeds from a pepper from the grocery store. This is one of the bugs that is the bane of my life. That is on all of my brassicas. I don't know if you can see this little gray jerk, but I have him in most of my cabbages. More red Russian kale. More beans. These are a pink bush bean. More beans. I think these are saxa beans. Some beets hidden in there. red Russian, beets, another pepper plant, and another beans. So we made this like kind of makeshift green stock. It's an experiment. We just have a tomato wire going through, and then these pots from the grocery store, or not from the grocery store, from the hardware store, and then just strap them up so that they didn't fall down. And then the tomato wire goes all the way down into the ground through the base pot. So it's a little more stable, but it's not terribly stable, which is why I have strapped it to the roof of the greenhouse. But yeah, I think the smaller one works better in general, but the bigger one is better for the things that we planted in it. Tomatoes in a bucket with some of that curly purple kale that I like, and some volunteer chard from the bucket outside. Nasturtiums, volunteer pumpkin plant. They have no idea where it came from. Our cucumbers, we have already harvested 2. We've got 2 more coming on. This plant is not terribly happy in here. I think it is a little too hot for it, so I'm probably going to pull it out once we get all the harvest, but we've still got, it's setting fruit. So as long as it's setting fruit, I'm just going to let it keep going because they have been really, really tasty cucumbers. Some dinosaur kale, transplants that I totally screwed up about. This is a grocery store beet that I was just regrowing to try and harvest seed from so that we can get more yellow beet seed because I couldn't find them in the store. But that is like a year-long future plan. Went fishing. The only thing I caught was this piece of garbage that was in the lake, so I decided to plant some beans in it. So this is going to be a bean planter if the beans sprout, which they are. Hooray! It is too tall for me to actually see, so I didn't realize that had happened. This is some ginger growing in a pot, broad bean and ginger growing in a pot. More dino kale and pak soy and beets to go out into the fall garden. A melon that needs to get transplanted out. This is very dead. These are the 2 cabbage squashes that I did as backups. They are now behind because they're in a smaller container than the ones that were direct seeded outside. So that's kind of funny. Some mint and a pepper plant that got topped, and so just trying to reseed it, or reroot it rather. Cool. This is a purple broccoli that has, I don't know if you can see that, but has little teeny tiny eggs from my white moth caterpillar. So that is going to go die in a fire and get fed to the chickens. Because, yeah, if you see these, those are future jerks that will eat your plants. More basil, okra, loofah, and more melons. Very, very dangerous, ridiculous thing that I did starting those, but I need to find them a home outside. Purple sprouting broccoli, more tomatoes that were suckers, and then these are all the, I just forgot what they're called, rutabagas. So rutabagas and clearly some grass that is not real. So yeah, rutabagas, or Schallrot in Swedish, or Swedes in British English. So some of them have germinated. I'm actually kind of surprised that any of them have, because the greenhouse has been too hot for them to germinate, and I really should have started these inside. But whatever. Hindsight is 20/20. It's fine. There's some noodle beans back there, some volunteer kales, some tomatoes, a watermelon plant, and my sweet 100s that are losing their mind, and the very first blushing tomato. We are finally going to get a tomato. I think tomorrow that will be ready to pick, and I will eat it, and it will be the best thing ever. The first tomato of the summer. It is, what is today? Today's the 25th. Yeah, it is July 25th, and we're getting the first blushing tomato, which is so late, but so worth it. And then this is just a beefsteak next to this guy. These are the seed heads of garlic chives, and then regular chives, which we will have more of that, and I just have that as a chive bucket. These 2 grew next to each other, and so last year some of the regular chives got into my garlic chives, and so it's fine. I will probably transplant the regular chives out of this one, and then just leave this as like my weird grassy onion bucket that's in the greenhouse every year. This is ong choy, or water spinach, and some ginger and some basil. This is a weed, so I'm going to take them out before that's a problem. And then these are beet seeds that are grown from grocery store beets. So they are ready to harvest. So I'm just going to stop watering this guy and let him dry out. And then tomorrow I'll pull them out and then I can replant the container. Some broad beans in my asparagus bucket. Those little ferns are asparagus. There's a cabbage hidden back there because we just have too many cabbages. I do not know what this is. This is either it's some kind of currant. But until it fruits, I won't know what it is. And if the fruit is tasty, then I will go and plant it out in the yard. And my grapes. And yeah, that's the greenhouse. Moving on to outside, clementine, which I'm now just shading out. Clementine orange. This is our weird bucket. That is the nasturtium that has been transplanted in there 3 times. It has now decided that it is winning the war against everything else. And there's a little bean plant in here, which that's good and fun. That there's a little bean plant in here hiding under this giant nasturtium. I put some tomato suckers in, and then I'm not taking care of them. If they get it together and give me tomatoes, cool. If they don't, that's fine, because they're more suckers I didn't know what to do with. And I did put a little brassica start in here, but it might have been too small, and it is not thriving. And this guy is doing better, so I'm actually just going to pull this one out because they're going to compete, and there's no reason to overstress this bucket that is already overstressed. The nasturtiums have been really good for attracting the white butterflies that ruin your brassicas, and most of the caterpillars I have found have been on the nasturtiums, but I'm now getting them on my actual cabbages. And so these ones, like, I don't mind. The ones that are forming nice heads in the back, I totally mind. And if they get my Brussels sprouts, I will be pissed. And so I've just been hunting. And so we have 2 more Brussels sprouts. We are getting Brussels, which is awesome. This is the kale bed, and I also need to harvest these seeds because they are definitely ready. So yeah, this weekend is going to be harvesting all the seeds. And then this year's carrots, which are very small, and they're getting it together. And then last year's carrots, which are much bigger. And so we've actually been eating the old carrots that didn't bolt and set seed. And then in like another week, I'll be able to harvest these flower heads, and then we can replant carrot seeds that have been climatized to our climate and hopefully have carrots forever, because I let a lot of them go to seed. And then we've also just been feeding them to the chickens. I normally grow the carrots as chicken snacks rather than for us, because carrots at the store are cheap and they don't, like, I don't have good luck with them here. Our season is weird for me. They never get really big, so they're super duper tasty, but they don't ever really get going for me, and they take a really, really long time, and I'm too impatient, and I always pull them early or forget about them. But yeah, this plant I planted out, I want to say March of 2019, and we've been eating the carrots from that planting in July of 2020. So like, we had 3 carrots from this in a salad yesterday, which I'll show you pictures of. But yeah, they're just really tiny. And this one is one that bolted. I'm just going to pull it out to show you how small they are. So like, this is 2 years of growth in my garden, and like, that's just ridiculous and sad. And this decided to become a flower, right? Like, this is just a very silly thing that this is a flower off of this tiny little guy. So I'm going to not use him. And he's going to go to the chickens. Okay. We have some rhubarb that we just planted from seed. So that's an annual style of growing rhubarb rather than using a crown. Potatoes in bags, and they are definitely sprouting. So we will get potatoes from these. Cauliflower. This is the container gardens that I planted out on July 4th. So my victory buckets. These are the 2 pumpkins. So they will start going up this trellis soon. The salsify is doing great. The chard that I the kale that I transplanted out is doing great. And then the peas are up and they are doing good. And might harvest some of those tendrils for just some salad today. And then equal and opposite, same thing. I'm gonna try to not murder a butterfly on camera. But yeah, so they're doing good. Everybody's doing good. But I am constantly searching for caterpillar eggs because we are going to have them. And yep, there we go. There's more. Bane of my life. It's fine. It's part of being a gardener and being too lazy to do any kind of pest management or cover my brassicas because I'm interplanting. And so I need my pollinators to come for my peas and for my pumpkins, so I can't cover this kale to protect it, right? This is the trade-off. So you can put all of your brassicas together, do a monocrop, protect it with netting, but I personally like a little bit more wild, a little more companion plants. That's my own personal style, but it does mean that I have to go hunt caterpillars. Yeah, so that's just me. All right, raspberries. We still have more raspberries. Always more raspberries. So yeah, and these were 2 free plants that I got from the neighbors before they moved. And so they were just thinning out their patch. And so now I have these, and that is a huge one that I'm going to have to move. Nemesis! It's fine. We have a big old pumpkin hiding in the middle of this, which, it's like a jungle. I need to prune this. But, yeah, that is my happy girl. And we will probably be able to harvest her in a week or so. She's almost ready. This branch is still alive, even though it got severely mangled, and I just left it alone. And then this tomato plant got wrapped up in the pumpkin. This was just poor planning. I did not expect this to go so wild so quickly, but we are getting tomatoes on it. Hello, crane fly. But yeah, we're getting little tomatoes all over the place on it. So even though it has been attacked by this giant nasturtium and this giant pumpkin, it's still making us fruit. This is my squash that has lost its mind and is just so ridiculously happy. This is where the base plant was. This is where I put the plant, and it has just trailed all the way over there and just keeps putting off more and more and more squash. So we are going to get a ridiculous amount of squash off this plant. There's another purple kale that's hidden under there. And then the mystery Brussels sprout, purple kale that is just getting out-competed by everything around it. Mostly that squash taking over. These are broccoli. We're not getting broccoli, but that's okay. We have a pest that was eating the center heads out of stuff, so none of my broccoli's coming up, but I'm getting side shoots, so hopefully I'll get side shoots on all of these. Another bean that I popped in there, another squash plant, and then we have cucumbers in the back. I don't think you can tell. And then beefsteak tomatoes next to them, and nasturtiums. And then, yeah, and then these are calendula. And I went through and I harvested all the flowers for tea the other day. So they're all drying in the house. And I've been pulling out my spinach trees. So I missed one when I did that yesterday on this bed. But they all dropped some seed. So that spinach seed that came off of letting these spinach bolt and go to flower, and so they just make little seed heads in the armpits here, right? And then just letting them get this developed, we could still eat the greens, and so we were eating the greens, and then they drop seed, so they've self-seeded. So I expect to get volunteer spinach all in this bed. So this is going to be, the front of this will just be spinach for us for the winter that we don't have to do anything about. It'll just come up. This is ground elder, which weirdly is apparently very expensive here, and you can sell it to people as a specialty green, but mostly they're just everywhere. You can use that as a substitute for parsley, or cook it as a green. It's tasty, but it's not tasty enough to take out other things in my garden. And this is just because we didn't do enough, a thick enough layer of cardboard on the bottom for the weed suppressant. But all of these future spinach will be good, and they'll take over that, hopefully. Yeah, and then this is that's the no-dig bed. This is the hugel bed, and it had the exact same planting out, but we had these weird volunteer spinach. I haven't taken these trees out yet. I'm going to do that probably today. And this had a volunteer sunflower that I thought was one of the spinach, but it turned out to be a sunflower. Nemesis! Just, you're taunting me. I see this about you. And we have cucumbers coming on this guy. We harvested one out of the other bed. We've got tomatoes, same thing. The pumpkin in this one, though, was severely stunted. It didn't like it. It didn't get its roots down. And so, like, this other bed, I was like, oh, well, that's just the better one. The no-dig, the squash is killing it. The hugel bed, the greens are much happier here. Like, you can just see how much happier this kale is compared to the kale over there. So if you want to grow a lot of squash, no dig. If you want to grow a lot of greens, hugel's where it's at. This also has had some moisture issues. And we've had a lot of mushroom growth in this bed, which is awesome and cool and crazy. But also, while that's going crazy, it's sending off a lot of female blossoms, but it's like out of control, and this one is making bigger fruit. So, like, this is not as intense, and now I see that I have blossom end rot, so I'm gonna have to come in and clean this. But it is giving me bigger fruit on this one, and we have a beautiful sunflower. So, you know, like, they're both good in their own ways, and like, this one's calendula is doing way better. So, I don't know. I think they'll both look pretty good for very different reasons. And that butterfly is just torturing me. And then this is just volunteer mums, which chrysanthemum. And also been taking these flowers off and harvesting them and putting them up for tea. Some suckers that we stuck in the ground, did not take care of them. They're going. The beets are forming. We are actually harvesting beets and eating them. We have more beans in here, and we have more tomatoes. And so hopefully we will have too much food. And there's really no way for us not to have too much food. And these are the spinach plants that I didn't uproot. I had planted a bunch, like a packet of spinach in this, because we did had a different setup. There was like a little fairy ring hugel bed that I had built a couple years ago. And then we went, oh, let's build beds on purpose. And then I had all these like little seedlings coming up, and that's how we ended up with the one volunteer sunflower, because I knew I had planted spinach here. I didn't know about the sunflower, and when they're really small, it's hard to tell what they are. But yeah, so we have all of the spinach, and we're gonna get more, because that's more seeds that have dropped out of the bed from this one's spinach trees. And then there's just a little chrysanthemum down here, so we'll get mums that are just coming out of nowhere. This is the weird cabbage fail with the asparagus in it. And, oh, we're getting new asparagus shoots. So that's cool. We might have asparagus for summer, for dinner. That's cool. That's a surprise. This is my oregano, which has lost its mind. I cut it way back and it rebounded. We also have broad beans coming, so we actually are getting broad beans. This one will give us some stuff. We got another pumpkin down in there, another pumpkin in here, and everybody's happy, and another kale. But yeah, so, and these are kohlrabi, which I've never grown before, and I planted too close together because I always overplant, and I have problems, and I expect all of my pests to come and eat things, and so I give things to the pests as a volunteer and sacrifice. This one is probably the best looking right now. It's got the widest base and is making that traditional like kohlrabi bulb. But yeah, we should get these soon, and that's just me needing to actually come through here and clean up the kohlrabi and fix some of the pest pressure. But yeah, we're getting stuff, and more beetles, because why not more beetles. But yeah, and then the oregano's super pretty, and the old growth is already blossoming. So we've got lots of pollinators, and then there was just the big back garden. Oh, and very tiny pumpkin on this plant that I screwed up and did not treat properly. You know, we mess up. Hello, dog. And then I just got 2 eggs out of the coop, so that's probably a mistake. Now I'm just carrying around eggs. I will try to come back for them later. Alright, so that's a 3 apple tree. There's 3 different apples planted on it. Cherry tree, apple tree. Most of the cherries went to the birds because my boyfriend is allergic and I'm trying to not bring things into the house that he's allergic to. He's also allergic to apples. Less fun. These are black currants that the kids have destroyed. Blueberries the kids have destroyed. Blueberries the kids have destroyed. Yeah. And then on the other side, blueberries that the kids have not destroyed yet. But we have not been having good watering. But that's still delicious, even though it wasn't pretty. Another blueberry bush. And there's an apple tree the previous owner planted there. It's in a really weird spot. But whatever. It's fine. This is my arbor that has nothing growing on it. Because, of course not. I planted some beans down here the other day. Which that one is sprouted. And that one is sprouted. There's another one over here somewhere, but that was my plan, was to try and sprout them on the outside of the box so that they're not competing with what's in the box, and then train them up the trellis. And so, I don't know. Oh, yep, and this side's got a bean too, so that's awesome. But yeah, I planted 3 on each side, and so I'm trying to get it together. Like, I have the noodle beans that I planted on the inside of this box, and they have not figured it out. And then I planted some cucumbers in there. So I originally tried to put pumpkin, tomato, and beans in the box to grow up. I still have the tomatoes. The pumpkin in that one died because of the late frost. This one turned out to be a yellow squash. So that's not good. These tomatoes are still alive. And I put more transplants in. So like, we're going to get tomatoes, but they're not going to do what I wanted them to do. So my plan is to take those 2 pumpkins that are inside, put them in containers and put them next to the bed, and then train them up the trellis. And I put the beans on the inside. So the beans will grow from the inside. So like, I built these boxes and this arbor for things to grow up out of the box onto them. And it's not happening, so I am adjusting because I will make this dream happen. And so there are beans now direct sowed into the ground that are getting the nutrients from the boxes, so they've got plenty of that. And like, as you can see, they're getting sun on this side during the day, and then as it moves over, like, they're getting at least 6 hours each because we have ridiculous sunshine here in Sweden. Oh, cabbage moths! Okay, seriously, now it's just getting ridiculous. But yeah, so like, it's starting, I'm adapting, right? Like, I'm not accepting that like the dream is going to die because it, like, the initial plan didn't work out. I am adapting, I'm adjusting, I'm trying new stuff, and we're just gonna go with it. And so like, I've put cucumbers in there. If they get it together, then those will come up and they'll go through. I also put some cucumbers in here, and so like, I'm going to train them up here onto this fence. So like, I'm just trying to use what I have around me to try and make something happen. And then this is a Spetz that I need to harvest because it is like, no, I'm too big, which is good because then this cucumber will have more light. And I think I might have even put another one over here. But yeah, so I'm going to take that guy out today. These are Brussels sprouts that are doing great. And there's nasturtiums and tomatoes and squash in there. This is my spinach that was growing underneath a mustard green. So like, this was seeded in March, and then it didn't actually start producing for us until last week. And so I'm just coming in here and picking off sections and throwing them into breakfast and stuff. And these are some white cabbages that this is where I pulled the majority of the caterpillars the other day. So, dude, come on, man. Don't do this to me. But yeah, so this is just spinach and cabbage. And this is a green onion from the grocery store that I planted out, and then it started to form a seed head. So I'm letting it form a seed head so I can collect the seeds and plant them later. Yeah, this is the Spetz that I harvested earlier this year that's setting out shoots trying to make more Spetz. Tomato, onions from the grocery store to just try and give us more onion in the garden. And then I think that's a squash, not a cucumber, but it might be a cucumber as well. So we'll see. And then more Brussels sprouts, and a pea plant that is not happy because peas and brassicas don't actually, or not peas, beans and brassicas are not really friends, but it's okay. It might be a mistake, but it might be okay. So we'll see. These are where my original squash were. So there are 4 squash plants in here. And you can see we've got a bee friend that is just in there pollinating my ladies. And there's another bee friend on the lamb's quarters. So this is a cousin of quinoa, which you can harvest these and then use them like quinoa, which is the main reason why I leave them here. I planned to harvest them last year and then forgot, and then you know, stuff happens. It goes wild. It's cool. This is the last Spetz that's in this box. I planted 4 squash and 3 Spetz in this box, which was the biggest mistake in the world, but that's okay. I did not realize how big cabbages got. We moved one out. The dogs got it. The other one we harvested from here, and we ate it. This one is pretty good, like maybe another week and then it'll be done, but I also might need to take it now just because we have had so many white fly or cabbage moth problems. This is our salad box that's still going, with some spinach and a white cabbage that was originally in that box, and then I transplanted here because I wanted to make sure they weren't overcrowded. So I was trying to learn from my mistakes, but now they're just in here and sad, and they're not doing very good. So those will probably all go to the chickens at some point. And then we have pumpkins, or not pumpkins, we have potatoes. Just keep dreaming about pumpkins. Potatoes that just came up out of nowhere, and so we have them all in the yard. Every time you see one of these, that is just volunteer potato plants, because this last year was my potato patch, and it was just big and wild, and it didn't have any of these boxes. All the boxes are new, and all the boxes we got for free from my boyfriend's work, and so we're just like, okay, let's like organize it, make it a little more purposeful for the kids. And so this is all transformed because of him. Yeah, I love you, baby. Yeah. Sorry, just talking about my boyfriend made me a little happy and verklempt. We've been together for almost a year now, which is completely banana pants to think about. More potatoes, another cabbage that was attacked by a caterpillar. This guy feels really good, actually, and we should probably get him out of there. And then we've got more peas coming. These were peas that were just in the pantry from the grocery store, and I soaked them in water overnight, threw them in here in early April, I think, against this rebar, and then just like, okay, we'll see what happens. And so we've been getting peas off of this. Most people probably would have torn this plant out, but instead I didn't, and I'm just letting it keep producing for me. The peas are still good, they're still tasty, and that's what matters. And we had some yesterday as a snack, and then we had missed some, like this guy, totally missed. And so that's seed. This will get replanted out either next year or if I find a new place to plant peas. So when I miss them like this, that's just a new plant. So that's fine. And I have a handful of these that I found yesterday that are drying in the house because they were not as established as this. Like this is perfect. Like this, you can just save. Like you can take them out of the pod. You can save. That's exactly what you want to see when you are harvesting your seed. It's fully mature, filled out, dried. Like this is no work. And we got a bunch of rain yesterday, and the fact that it's this dry, like that's just ready to plant. This will make a plant for you, and then you will get more bees. So it's kind of awesome. I'm into it. I also like things that are free because I'm cheap. We have more Brussels sprouts because of course, and then a Spetz hidden in there, and then these are our broccoli that are not doing very well, and mostly that's just because there's too many brassicas in here. It's being outcompeted. There's another Brussels sprout out there. There used to be a 4th, but the dogs ate it. More potatoes. No! Sorry. White moth on my beautiful white, like this is a white cabbage. This is a round cabbage head. It was in the Spetz pack, but it just gave me a round head. So this guy, I'm very looking forward to eating. He is very large. He is hard. He feels good. But like, I think he could get bigger, and so I've just been leaving him alone so he can get bigger. This is another cabbage, so like I've just been like replacing cabbage with cabbages, which is probably a mistake. And then this is the last of the butternut squash, and like this one was just heavily shaded out and also might have a vine borer, but that could be why it's not doing well. But it's okay. Like, that was an experiment and a free plant that came from a plant, from fruit that was rotting in the house. So I can't really be mad at it. The fact that it made anything is kind of awesome. And it was growing in here with 4 cabbages, 3 of which we already ate. And like, you can see the stumps of the cabbages in here. Like, I cut them off. And so like, they're still in here. The 4th one is hiding. But yeah, it's just there. It's just really small and it's rotting away. But this one that's above, like, they're just setting out new shoots and trying to make more cabbages. So everywhere where I cut one higher above the soil line, that is what we got. Hello, squash bug and earwig. Organic gardens. These are Jerusalem artichokes that were from the grocery store that had gone bad in a bag, and I just threw them in the ground and was like, well, if we get them, we will get them. And so they're starting to set little flowers. So we're going to have really pretty little sunflowers back here by the Brussels sprouts, which I also had to pull a bunch of caterpillars out of the other day. Bane of my existence right now. Just hunting caterpillars. And then there is a little watermelon plant in here, and a nasturtium, and a bean plant. So this bean plant is actually like looking way healthier. So I think the problem up there is that the bean is too hot and it gets too much sun, rather than the brassica being the issue, because, you know. And then there's an onion here from the grocery store that's making a flower that I'm going to save the seeds from. Yeah. This is my weird onion ring, and then I threw some more spatzkal seeds in here for them to do for a winter harvest, but I don't think any of them germinated, or if they did, the birds got them. So I have other stuff that I've started in the house that I will transplant out into here, so this isn't wasted space and compost. There's corn, more potatoes that I'm stepping on, black currants that I keep saying I need to harvest and then not harvesting because not a priority. Tay berries, which that's just breakfast. So, oh, yeah, when these are ripe, they just taste like jam. They are my favorite in the garden. Oh, what's that, my dauber wasp? Yeah. This is where you're supposed to be. Come over here. All the butterflies that are messing with everything else, come here and pollinate my berries. Leave my cabbages alone. Nobody wants you in the cabbages. But these are my favorite. So we're gonna try to propagate these, and we're gonna move these out because this is gonna be the new chicken run over here. But I'm just taking advantage of all of the food and the space with us clearing this out and prepping that. So I've just been like planting, and then as soon as we harvest all of this, then we're gonna uproot the berry bushes and we're gonna move them out so that they're gonna line the fence instead, which will be great. And so like the hope is that the kids can come and they can get fruit and berries from the fence line. These are blackberries and they are coming around, and that's a creepy beetle. He is so creepy. He's cool though. I'm not going to mess with him because I'm pretty sure that is one that eats the bad guys. So I'm going to have to research him. And once I research him, I might move him to my brassicas. But he's cool. If for no other reason than he looks cool. But he's protecting my blackberries. We got a couple of them. Huh. All right. I'm going to need to do some research because I've never seen that guy. If anybody knows what that is, feel free to post in the comments, and then you'll save me the Google trip, which is nice. So yeah, see if I can get a better angle on him. No, sort of. Hi, mystery man. Don't make it weird. Don't make it weird. So yeah, that's that guy. And then just more potatoes. And there's some cucumbers that I planted, tomato runners that are starting to blossom, and this is where my spring garlic went in. But I think the kids have trampled some of it, or possibly neighborhood cats, or who knows. there's too many possibilities. And garbage from cleaning stuff up. You know, it's just real. More blueberries, more blueberries. And then the first seeding of corn, which we are not going to get corn. Do not believe for a second we're going to get corn. And then this is the second seeding of corn, which was just an ear that was in the mudroom all year, just exposed. And my boyfriend thought it was decorative. And I was like, go give me that corn. And I just like popped the seeds off of it and threw them on the ground, like tilled this out, threw them on the ground. And then the yellow dock was like, screw you, I'm going to come up anyway. But yeah, that is the corn from an ear of corn that was just hanging out in the mudroom for a year. That was like the one ear of corn that we got last year. It was like the best one. I was like, I'm going to save it for seed. And then I forgot that I had saved it for seed. And then we threw it in here. So yeah, that is, that's the garden. And that's the back neighbor, which is a farm that is growing rape, also known as canola. Canola is a much nicer name. It doesn't carry horrifying connotations. But that is just a giant field that was very beautiful and yellow in late April, early May. And now will get harvested when their seeds are fully dry, and they will get turned into oil most likely, and the base may be fodder. But yeah, canola oil is what people do. So it's just a mustard. If you didn't know that canola oil comes from a brassica, when it's growing, it's very clearly a brassica flower. These the 4-petal yellow flowers that come up, and it's one of the most beautiful things in Skåne, as long as you're not allergic to it and you don't have allergy problems. It is really pretty in the spring to just see the fields of rape come up, and first they're green, and then they just have this blanket of yellow, and then they go green when the seed pods set, and now they're into this like kind of brown wheat-ish looking, but it is it's not. But this explains why I have so many goddamn cabbage moths this year, because they came for that giant field of rape, and I can just see hundreds of them flying and dancing through that field. And this is why you keep coming to my house, guys. So yeah, I just realized that my caterpillar problem this year is because the farm decided to plant like 3 acres of cabbage in my yard. Things you can't control. It's fine. We've already eaten 5. That's more than I've ever had. So it's cool. But I see you, buddy. I see you. This war is not over. Also, they're huge and fat because of that. All right. I'm going to go make breakfast. Thanks for watching, guys.